Welcome to Life Stories. Have you ever worked your entire life for something, only to watch it crumble before your eyes? Imagine putting in years of sleepless nights, perfecting your craft, only to be passed over for someone with nothing more than a smile and a good network. That's exactly what happened to her. One moment she thought she had it all, and the next, it was all slipping away. But here's the thing. Sometimes the hardest part isn't watching it fall apart, it's deciding what to do next. Do you stay and fix it? Or do you walk away, leaving everything behind for something greater? This is the story of a woman who refused to be defined by someone else's choices. Stay with us as we dive into her journey of ambition, betrayal, and the power of choosing your own path. The journey begins now. Samantha Collins sat quietly across from Jessica Harper, her manager, in the sleek, glass-walled corner office of Apex Solutions. The city skyline stretched out before them, but Samantha couldn't bring herself to enjoy the view. The lights of downtown flickered, but it might as well have been in the distance of a different world, the world she was about to leave. Jessica, in her designer blazer and perfect smile, leaned back in her chair, her voice syrupy as she delivered the verdict. Samantha, you're brilliant, but Olivia, she's got that charm, you know? People just like being around her. She's more approachable. It's not that you lack the ability, but she just fits the role better. She's easier. Samantha felt the sharp sting of the words. She had spent 6 years in this company, building everything from scratch, slaving away on midnight reports, pulling together last-minute presentations, and rescuing accounts that no one else had the guts to tackle. She'd more than doubled the company's Midwest portfolio, redesigned a training system, and saved Apex nearly $2 million. She had done everything they asked, and then some. But it was Olivia, the one with the curated Instagram posts and an endless stream of girl boss quotes, who was getting the promotion. Not Samantha. She wanted to argue, to scream at the unfairness of it all. But her hands, clenched beneath the desk, trembled instead. Her nails bit into the skin of her palm, grounding her, reminding her that this moment was a choice. She didn't need to fight for approval anymore. She had already won, and they didn't even know it. "Thank you for the feedback, Jessica," Samantha said, her voice steady despite the chaos inside her. She slid a crisp white envelope onto the desk, its edges sharp and final. "Here's my resignation, effective in 2 weeks." Jessica's composure faltered for the briefest of moments, her smile dropping into something that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Wait, Samantha, let's talk about this. We can work something out. You've been with us for so long." But Samantha didn't wait. She stood up, buttoning her blazer with a calmness she didn't feel. "No need," she replied, her voice cool as a glacier. "You were clear. I'm focused on outcomes, and that's why I'm leaving." As she walked out of Jessica's office, she couldn't help but feel the shift. Heads turned, whispers rippling through the bullpen. Olivia, with her latte in hand and her smug little smile, would be the one everyone expected to take over her desk. But Samantha didn't care. She wasn't walking away from defeat. She was walking away from a room that no longer deserved her presence. What Jessica didn't know, and what no one else would ever know until it was too late, was that Samantha had been quietly building something of her own. For the past 3 years, she'd been developing a leadership software platform on her own time, with her own resources. And last week, the patent had been approved. A week later, she sat across from Jared Lewis, CEO of Titan Technologies, her old company's top competitor. He smiled at her with a sincerity that felt like warmth after the cold indifference of Apex. "We've been waiting for someone like you," he said, sliding a contract across the table. "Someone who understands that outcomes, not optics, build legacies." Samantha smiled as she signed the partnership agreement. She had been dismissed, discarded by a system that valued charm over results. But now she had more than just a role. She had power. She had control. And most importantly, she had the validation she needed to prove that being underestimated wasn't just a setback. It was her fuel. Meanwhile, back at Apex, Rachel was living in her moment of supposed victory, swanning through the office with her latte in hand. She leaned over Samantha's old cubicle wall, a smug smile on her face. "Samantha, I hope you're not too disappointed. I know you really wanted that spot." Samantha didn't even flinch. She calmly backed up the past 3 years' worth of metrics, training manuals, and workflow optimizations. They weren't hers to take anymore, but they were hers to document. Every dollar saved, every system built, every outcome tied to her. "No hard feelings, Rachel," she said, her voice cool, almost too calm. "You'll do great." Rachel, oblivious to what was coming, smiled and walked away. But what she didn't know was that Samantha had built the foundation of Apex's success, and now it was out of her reach. The next 2 weeks were a blur. Samantha signed the paperwork, started onboarding with Titan, and watched as Apex faltered. She was there now, in a place where her worth wasn't defined by her ability to play nice, but by what she created. She wasn't a ghost in the shadows anymore. She was the architect in the spotlight. By the time her final day arrived at Apex, the damage was already done. As she handed in her access badge, Jessica called her into the glass-walled office one last time, her tone desperate. "Samantha, we need to talk about the report you attached to your resignation. Why didn't you tell us about this platform you built?" Samantha sat down, smooth and composed, her fingers resting delicately on the arms of the chair. "I did," she replied. "3 separate proposals over the last 2 years. You dismissed each one because you were focused on improving interpersonal chemistry across departments." Jessica's hands trembled as she scanned the pages, her face draining of color as she took in the numbers, the data, the results. "This is patented," she whispered almost to herself. Samantha nodded. "Filed last fall, fully approved, and I've accepted a partnership at Titan Technologies. They're preparing to scale it firm-wide." Jessica's voice broke as she asked, "But what about loyalty, Samantha? You can't just leave for a competitor." Samantha tilted her head slightly, a smile barely curving her lips. "Loyalty? You mean when you chose Rachel's charm over my contributions? Or when you rejected my proposals because I didn't host enough happy hours?" Jessica's mouth opened, but Samantha didn't wait for the apology. She was already moving on. "If you'd valued output over office politics, we wouldn't be here," she said, the finality in her voice unmistakable. As she left the building for the last time, she felt free in a way she hadn't in years. Her departure wasn't defeat. It was liberation. Have you ever been passed over for someone who was less qualified but more charming? How did you deal with it? What would you do if you had the chance to prove everyone who underestimated you wrong? Her next move would make everything they thought they knew about success obsolete. What she had built in the shadows was about to shine, and no one, especially not Jessica or Olivia, would be able to ignore it. As she drove past Apex's building that evening, she glanced up at their logo, now dimmed by time and consequence, and smiled. They would soon realize the weight of their mistake, but by then she would already be somewhere far beyond their reach. The next chapter was waiting, and she was ready to step into the spotlight for good. Samantha stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows in her new office at Titan Technologies, looking out over Lake Michigan. The view was a stark contrast to the cramped cubicle she had left behind at Apex, but the peace it offered was fleeting. Despite the sleek, modern office and the sense of accomplishment that came with her promotion, a gnawing emptiness lingered just beneath the surface. This wasn't the triumph she had imagined. She had thought that once she walked away from Apex, everything would fall into place. The validation she'd sought for so long, the recognition for her work, it was all supposed to feel like a victory lap. But something felt off. It wasn't just the quiet hum of the office or the occasional flicker of doubt that crept in late at night. It was deeper than that. At Titan, she was surrounded by brilliance, by people who recognized her value. And yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had built something incredible. Her platform had revolutionized timelines, cut costs, and gained traction with 3 Fortune 100 companies. But in all of that success, she had lost something. Olivia's face kept flashing in her mind, the smug smile as she leaned over Samantha's old desk, the casual dismissal that had set her on this path. But it wasn't just Olivia. It was Jessica, the person who had so confidently chosen the wrong candidate, the person who'd prioritized charm over results. Samantha had proved them all wrong, yes. But now, in the quiet of her new office, A part of her couldn't escape the question, was it worth it? It wasn't that she wanted to go back. No, she was beyond that now. She wasn't the same woman who had sat across from Jessica in that sterile office, listening to her belittle her work. But the people she had left behind, Tariq, the few good people at Apex, were they better off without her? Was it her own pride that had driven her away? Or was it truly the right decision to walk away from everything she had worked for, to leave them all behind for the shiny new opportunities at Titan? Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft ping of a new message on her phone. It was from Tariq. "Samantha, have you seen the news? I think you need to know what's happening. It's bad. Real bad." She frowned, her heart sinking. Tariq was one of the few people at Apex who had seen the system she built in action, who had understood its worth before anyone else did. She had trusted him. And now, to hear the panic in his words, she opened the news link he had sent, and her stomach dropped. Westlake Strategies announces emergency restructure amid mass departures and system collapse. The headline screamed at her. The article detailed how Apex had lost 30% of its clients after Q2, with missed deadlines, ballooning budgets, and fractured internal systems. The company was in chaos. But the most damning part of the article came in the form of a quote from one of her former clients, Thomas Kwan, CEO of Terra Nova Solutions. "We once trusted Westlake with enterprise-level integrations. Now, they can't even deliver on basic timelines. It's like the backbone of their operations disappeared." Samantha's breath caught in her throat. It wasn't just the company that had collapsed. It was everything she had worked so hard to build. The systems, the processes, the results. They had relied on her. They had trusted her. And yet, now they were paying the price for dismissing her. Her fingers hovered over the phone, unsure whether to respond to Tariq. But then another message popped up. This one was from Jessica. "Samantha, I know you're probably beyond angry with me, but I need to tell you that we've made a huge mistake. The systems you developed, they were the only thing keeping us afloat. Everything's falling apart. We tried to build it in-house, but without your expertise, it's impossible. Please, let's talk. This isn't over." Samantha's heart raced. She read the message again, disbelief coursing through her. She's asking me to fix it? After everything? The truth settled in like a heavy weight. She had been right all along. Apex had needed her. They had always needed her. And now they were drowning without her. She wanted to be smug, to feel that quiet satisfaction of knowing she had won, but she didn't. Because deep down, she realized she wasn't done. This wasn't just about proving herself right. This was about something bigger. It was about fixing the mess they had made. About giving them a taste of what they had so thoughtlessly cast aside. But it wasn't just about business. It was about her own journey, her own redemption. Could she really go back to them, knowing they had let her walk out the door? Could she really throw herself back into the lion's den after they'd treated her like she was expendable? Her fingers shook as she typed a response to Jessica. "You had your chance, Jessica. This is beyond repair." She hit send, but as soon as the message was gone, she felt a sudden rush of guilt. She was burning bridges, leaving a trail of destruction in her wake. But wasn't that what they had done to her? Hadn't they cast her aside, discarded everything she had contributed, only to watch it crumble in their hands? Samantha stared out at the lake, the sun setting in the distance, casting a golden glow over everything. She felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her chest. She wasn't sure what to do next. Have you ever had to choose between personal redemption and professional responsibility? How did you navigate the consequences of that choice? As she sat in her office, the words of Jessica's message echoed in her mind, the weight of the decision pulling her in two directions. Should she fix it, go back and help them recover, or should she keep moving forward, leaving them to deal with the mess they had created? The silence in the room was deafening, the air thick with uncertainty. Her future was now a delicate balance between what she had built and what she had left behind. The next chapter of her journey had already begun, but was she ready to embrace it? It was time to make a choice. And whatever she decided would change everything. Samantha stood at the edge of the balcony, her gaze fixed on the horizon, where the sun dipped beneath the city's skyline. The night was closing in, and a sharp wind tugged at the edges of her coat. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the silence, and for a moment, she let the vibrations pulse through her fingertips before pulling it out. It was from Tariq again. "I think you should know. They're in full-blown panic mode. The board's meeting tomorrow to discuss the collapse. Everyone's asking for you. You're the one who made it work, Sam. They can't fix it without you. They can't." Her heart clenched. "They can't fix it without you." The words hung in the air like a question she had never truly answered. Was she the person they needed her to be? Or was she just the person they had never truly understood? She turned the phone over in her hand, as if the answer could be hidden beneath the surface. For so long, she had been the quiet force behind the scenes, working tirelessly while others reaped the rewards. She had been the one they dismissed, the one they didn't take seriously. But now, after everything, after walking away and rebuilding her life, did she really owe them anything? A soft knock at her door broke her reverie. "Can I come in?" It was Jared, his voice steady, calm, always reassuring. He stood in the doorway, looking at her with understanding. Jared had been her champion, the one who had recognized her worth before anyone else had. He didn't just see the systems she had built, he saw the person behind them. Samantha didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stared out into the growing night. The city below her seemed so small from here, almost irrelevant to the storm swirling inside her chest. "I know what you're thinking," Jared continued, stepping inside and shutting the door behind him. "You're considering going back, aren't you?" Samantha didn't answer him. She couldn't. The words tangled in her throat, suffocating the resolve she had built in the months since she left Apex. She had built something new, something bigger, something that valued results, not charm. But Apex? They were broken. And yet, they needed her. The thought was a dangerous thing, one that threatened to unravel everything she had worked for. "Let them collapse," Jared said, his voice cutting through her thoughts. "Let them deal with the consequences of their actions. You don't owe them anything." But Samantha knew better than anyone that the cost of walking away from something so broken wasn't just about leaving a company behind. It was about leaving people. Her team, Tariq. The ones who had believed in her when no one else had. She looked at Jared, his face bathed in the soft light from the room's desk lamp. "But they need me, Jared. They always have. What kind of person would I be if I just walked away from that?" Jared's expression softened, and he stepped closer to her. "You're not the one who left them. You're not the one who dismissed your work, who turned away from everything you built. You've already given them everything you had. It's their turn to show they're worthy of you." His words stung, but they also pierced through the fog of indecision that clouded her mind. Jared was right. She had given them everything, and they had thrown it away for something as fleeting as charm. "I'm not a hero," Samantha whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of frustration and something deeper. Regret, maybe. "I just don't want to be the person who walks away and leaves them to crash and burn." "You already walked away, Sam," Jared said, gently taking her hand in his. "And you're here now. Look at what you've built, the legacy you're creating. That's where your future lies, not in a place that never saw you for what you truly were." Samantha squeezed his hand, her mind racing. What if he was right? What if she really had done enough? What if it was time to let go? The decision wasn't easy. Walking away from everything she had built at Apex felt like tearing a piece of herself out and leaving it behind. But she had given them everything, and they had taken it for granted. She had to move forward, not for them, but for her. In the days that followed, as the storm around Apex continued to rage, Samantha poured herself into her work at Titan. The projects she had developed in secret, systems that could change industries, were no longer just concepts. They were thriving, expanding, pushing the boundaries of what technology could do. Every day, she watched as her platform revolutionized the way businesses operated. But with each victory, the ache in her chest didn't subside. She was free. She was successful. But was it enough? Then came the email. It was from Tariq. "Samantha, I don't know how to say this. They're restructuring everything. They're bringing in a new leadership team. Jessica's out. They finally admitted they were wrong. They're asking for you again. Samantha's pulse quickened. She stared at the words, the offer hanging in the air like a heavy weight. The temptation to go back, to fix the damage, to lead them from the ashes was overwhelming. But she knew what she had to do. She stood from her desk, her fingers trembling as she typed her reply. She could feel the weight of her decision in every keystroke. Thank you for the offer, Tariq, but I've already built something new, something that values the right things. I'm not going back. She hit send and felt the weight lift. The choice was made. She wasn't going back to Apex. She wasn't going to fix something they had destroyed. She was going to keep building, keep growing, and keep proving that respect wasn't earned through politics. It was earned through substance. A few weeks later, as she sat in her new office, watching the sunlight reflect off the lake, she received a package. It was from Apex. Inside was a letter from Jessica, along with a small token, a keychain with the Apex logo. Samantha, we're sorry. We should have seen your worth. We should have recognized you. We hope one day you'll consider coming back. Samantha stared at the keychain for a long moment. The apology was real, but too little, too late. She tossed it into the trash, the sound of it hitting the metal bin echoing through the quiet room. She had made her choice, and it was one she would never regret. What would you do if you had the chance to return to a place that once rejected you? Would you help them rebuild or keep moving forward with what you've created? If you enjoyed the journey, where are you watching from? Please share this story with your friends, and thank you for being part of Life Stories.